Now then, I thought for this video today, I would just give my thoughts and opinions on what happened in today's race in the season finale of Formula 1 today, because a lot happened and it was quite a big occasion. So I'm going to just ramble off the cuff. It's going to be like a mini, not even a podcast, but like a 10-minute video, just me talking basically and making sure that I go through every point and give my thoughts and opinions. Now, I wanted to do this video earlier, but of course there was a lot of stewards' verdicts, decisions, inquiries, and I just come off a league race, so I had to basically delay this video until afterwards. So this is going to go out quite late, but anyway, let's jump into it. So let's have a little chat about the race. Now, point number one. I don't have a Max Verstappen wristband on. This is just, I was at a party last night and I've got a special wristband. Just because it's orange, it's just a coincidence. I'm not supporting Max. Also, I don't support Lewis. I don't support neither driver. I used to support Michael Schumacher when he retired. I never really found the same feeling to support a driver ever again. So I'm quite happy to be just neutral, unbiased, and just enjoy Formula 1, which is, to be honest, much better than being part of a toxic fan base battle. So yeah, for me personally, I can judge this with a relatively good objective opinion. And I think, a lot happened this weekend. I'm going to try and just talk about this weekend exclusively and break it down. So the weekend started and of course a lot of things happened, and we got to the race and the race got underway. Verstappen had a poor start. Hamilton takes the lead, and then the first controversial moment happens when Verstappen goes up the inside of Lewis into the chicane and, in my opinion, makes a fair move, which, was backed up by Martin Brundle on Sky F1 commentary. And in my opinion, Lewis should have given the place back. It was decided no further action, and I can understand the stewards' approach here. They were basically trying to let the drivers race and let the show go on. Now, I'll come back to this point later on. We move on to the race, and it was a pretty boring one, to be honest with you. And it finishes with that controversial last 5 laps. Latifi stacks it in the wall, safety car deployed. Is the race going to get back underway in time, or is it not? Is it going to finish under safety car? Why not a red flag, which was my idea at the time? And essentially, we are left with one racing lap. Now, let's break it down a little bit. There's controversy here because originally the FIA said no lapped cars shall pass and unlap themselves. And then we get a radio between Christian Horner and the FIA, Michael Massey, basically asking to move the lap cars out the way. And then 30 seconds later, we do actually get the message that lap cars are allowed to pass. Therefore, that puts Verstappen right behind Hamilton on the restart for a one-lap sprint. In that one-lap sprint, Verstappen goes by, passes him into the turn 5 hairpin, and in what was one of, let's say, Max's cleaner moves this season, you could say, for once it wasn't that controversial, and went on to win the race, and therefore, for now, securing the championship, because of course, there's been a lot that's happened. So after the race, there was multiple stewards' inquiries. The first one being for Verstappen overtaken under safety car, which was rightfully overruled in my opinion, because it was a restart. They were going really, really slowly, and there wasn't much in it. It was constantly, they were just changing places. The second investigation was concerning the stewards. Now, this is where the lines get blurry, because technically speaking, Max Verstappen and Red Bull done absolutely nothing wrong in this race. For once, the controversy wasn't on their behalf, because they just did what they had to do. And, with the position they found themselves in, they took full advantage of that. What Max done, Lewis would have done if it was the roles reversed. So nothing out of the ordinary, in my opinion, and the blame isn't on Max or Red Bull for this one, unlike in Jeddah. So there's no controversy over Max's actions this weekend, which is a really key point I want to kind of highlight here, because the problem here is stewarding. Now, a clear rule was broken where essentially you have to allow the lap cars to catch up to the back of the train. So once you've let the cars by, you have to give at least one full lap before you restart the race. Whereas in this particular scenario, that law was broken, let's say, or disobeyed, and the restart was given a green light that very same lap. Now, there's lots of moving parts here. I'm not going to sit here and say what I know is 100% certain and what is not, but that rule is true. Another thing that I think I know, but I'm not going to say I 100% know, is that Michael Massey is a race director, and a race director does get ultimate, control or decision over what happens. It doesn't always have to obey the rule book in certain scenarios, and today that wasn't the case. So he made a decision along with the steward panel, of course, which is something people seem to get confused about. Michael Massey doesn't take all of the decisions here. It's also the stewarding panel. So that's kind of a recap of what happened and what is happening. Right now, Verstappen's champion. Both stewards' inquiries post-race on Mercedes got turned down. So it looks like we're going to the Court of Arbitration of Sport for a decision in the courtroom. Now, this is where I give my opinion, because I think we need to review the race as a whole. Now, I want to set precedent here by giving a shout out to Jimmy Broadbent. He put out a fantastic tweet. It wasn't even a tweet, I think it was a response to somebody, essentially saying, the FI and the decisions the stewards are making are not actually favouring Verstappen or Hamilton, especially Verstappen, which is what most people are saying. Verstappen's getting a bit of luck from the stewards' decisions. What Jimmy Broadbent said, and I completely agree with him, is that the stewards are actually doing decisions in benefit of the show. The show must go on and all that, and, let them race and all that kind of thing. And I agree. The problem is, because of that and that nature and that style of decision, the lines are being blurred between what's legal and what's not legal. Now, with that in mind, let's run over this weekend and the reason why I agree with Jimmy and why that tweet is so true. Now, we've already been over the controversy regarding qualifying, the race, with at the start, lap 1, and also at the end of the race. Now, the way I see it, lap 1, the stewards got it wrong. At the end, the stewards got it wrong as well. For me, it should have been a red flag, 1-lap sprint, whatever. But the point is, I feel like the stewards may have been guilty for making a wrong call on lap 1 in regards to letting Lewis through. So they kind of almost felt like they might have had to make up for it a little bit to compensate. Either way, I think they got lap 1 wrong, but they got the end of the race wrong. So that is one incident apiece where the first one didn't benefit Verstappen and the second one didn't benefit Lewis. So they both got a bit of bad luck from the stewards in that respect. The real deal breaker for me, and the key thing no one talks about, is when stewards make decisions to let them race or, based around a championship battle, then, people say, why are the rules different, for Verstappen, or especially today, why didn't, they do a proper restart and stick to the plan like usual? Well, for example, let's look at precedent. So in Friday practice, or in this case, FP3, Lewis, of course, blocked Nikita Mazepin. That should have been a reprimand. That should have been a 10th-place grid penalty. But because the stewards this weekend are taking the approach of letting them race, then that decision didn't take place. But usually, any other time, any other race, Lewis would have had a 10th-place grid drop for this race, or any other race. But because it was a championship finale and the stewards are letting them race, nothing was given. Now, make no mistake, I agree with the call. Lewis should have not got a penalty, because there's no way something like this should spoil, the championship finale. But this is when lines get blurred, because Lewis was let off the hook in FP3 because of that incident, and then he was also let off, in my opinion, for the lap 1 incident with Verstappen. So that was 2 times where the stewards said let them race. And I think on the balance of play, while the ending is unsatisfactory, it's not like Hamilton got screwed, only him this weekend. I think the stewards also got it wrong with Verstappen a bit. And just generally, over the whole season, and this is kind of my point now where I'm getting to, the stewards have not been consistent. Decisions have been really, really poorly taken. Obviously, Max has been in the spotlight in Brazil and Jeddah for, moves that are beyond the limit. And, I think it's worth noting also other tracks. I think Imola Turn 1, Barcelona Turn 1, moves that are very, very aggressive on the edge. And, the stewards setting a precedent by not fixing it. So, what do we do? How do we fix this situation? Now, the first thing, for me, Verstappen keeps the championship because he actually done nothing wrong today. And that is a really key point. Why should Verstappen be punished for the stewards messing it up again? Now then, for me, F1 needs to sort this out during the off-season. Every race, Michael Massey goes there and does his job. But Michael Massey has support staff, all the stewards who actually go through all the rule book and make the decisions for him. Massey's much more of like a communication person to kind of, relay the message from the team, to the driver, to the team, or from the stewards to the team, whatever it may be. He's the kind of guy that relays the message and will, on occasion, take certain decisions for himself. So the problem with Formula One is every single race we have different stewards. So the people that support Michael Masi, he's kind of, let's say, people that are just beneath him on the rank, of steward, they change on a race by race basis. So the stewards this weekend weren't the same ones as last weekend. So until this gets fixed and we have permanent, fixed stewards who are there for every race, the same ones every single time, we're not going to get any consistency here and nothing's going to change. I think Michael Masi needs to improve in terms of maybe taking control. I feel like he loses control a bit too much, nowadays with decisions and lets people walk over him. I think he needs to be a bit more stern and have the respect of everybody by also acting accordingly. I think overall today, it was a shambles, but make no mistake, I think it's important to note, again, Red Bull and Verstappen done nothing wrong. So on paper, Lewis drove a perfect race. Verstappen did the best he could within the circumstances, and Max came out on top. And I think it's a shame to have the season ruined because of stewarding, but that's what's happened here. At the same time, I think we need to appreciate the season we've had. Lewis has been so strong, so consistent for so many years, and it takes a special driver and a special season to beat Lewis. And Max has had that season. He's not finished, I think, every race where he's finished that he hasn't been taken out of when it's not his fault. So Baku, Silverstone, and what's the other one? Baku, Silverstone, and Hungary, when he got T-boned by Bottas. Those three aside, I'm pretty sure Max has finished on the podium in every single race, either first or second. He's not finished third the entire season. So that level of consistency is something that you have to appreciate. Not just that, Max broke the record for most podiums this season as well, 18 podiums, and also most poles, which is really impressive because for me, in my opinion, Hamilton is the master qualifier. He is the greatest qualifier of all time. And I think Max has had a really strong year, and I think that deserves to be recognised. That aside, I don't want to waffle on too much longer. I've made my peace. I think it bothers me that the race didn't end the right way. In my opinion, it should have been a red flag, restart, everyone gets fresh tyres, and then you just do a one-lap shootout to the end. Again, that's another debate for another day, but the red flag, should you change tyres? Because last weekend in Jeddah, people had a problem with that because Verstappen benefited from that tyre change. But then would those same people had the same issue with it this race if Lewis had the chance to change into softs for a restart at the end? It's all a good debate, and I think people need to do a better job of seeing things from both sides. Either way, credit to Lewis. I think he was an absolute role model and an example to follow in the way he dealt with it after the race, honestly. And also Hamilton's father as well, going up to Jos Verstappen and Max as well. Big kudos to those guys for handling it that way. And overall, I think that's kind of my thoughts. I think the stewards panel needs a fix, and it needs it now. During the off-season for next year, we need to get to the bottom of this and change it, because starting from next season, we can have more consistent stewarding, a rule book that applies the rules accordingly, and we can try to move on from this, because make no mistake, it's not just crashes. Track limits is also another issue in Formula One nowadays, so there's many issues here. So for me, this needs to get looked at and addressed. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Give me your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. It's a late one, so I'll be seeing most of you tomorrow morning probably in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe for more, and yeah, the season is over. What a crazy one it was.